Hi, everyone, and welcome to the fifth installment of my In Conversation series. With the global pandemic raging around the world, businesses have had to digitize at speed. But often for small businesses, they lack expertise to get up and running and actually start the digitization process. PayPal recognizes just how critical small businesses are around the world in driving the global economy. Small businesses create jobs and foster healthier communities. PayPal's honouring small businesses with our PayPal Small Business Month. And locally in Singapore, we're proud to partner with Raise, a local organisation to support social entrepreneurs to get up and running and have their businesses thrive across the Singapore market. Today, I'm joined by Suba Balakrishnan, who's the Head of Ecosystem Development at the Singapore Centre for Social Enterprise, known as Raise. Today, we're going to talk about the role of social entrepreneurs in markets like Singapore. Before we go deeper, let's start with what is social entrepreneurship?
Thanks, Cam. Thanks for having me for everyone at the PayPal team. I think maybe I'll just start off by explaining what social entrepreneurship is. I think for me, I describe it as really the act of starting a business which has a social cause, right? Most social entrepreneurs, they want to be an agent of change. They want to make the world a better place for all of us, essentially. So a social enterprise really is a business that is established to create positive social change. More often than not, it's a delicate balance, when they have to go beyond the traditional bottom line of just financial performance to an alternative or rather added performance scale that is based on social outcomes. So for you and me, we can think of it as double bottom lines, really.
Okay.
Yeah, that in a nutshell is what a social enterprise is.
And in Singapore, is it a new concept, or how have you seen the evolution of social entrepreneurship here in the local community?
The sector is still rather nascent, I'd say, but social enterprises have forged a new economic model that really actively engages the community and takes into account what the larger social impact can cause on the civil society. We don't have legislation for social enterprises in Singapore, so essentially we see them as business entities, private limited companies registered with the ACRA here. So I think sometimes for the members of the public, it can be very difficult to tell them apart. We have charities on one end, which are largely non-profit in nature. We have profit maximizing businesses out there. And then there are social enterprises right in the middle. And then how do you tell them apart, right? So that's where really Raise comes in to be able to validate their impact and then tell people on the street that, these are businesses for good and that they can come and engage with them and procure from them.
And how long has Raise been around here in Singapore?
Raise just celebrated our 5th anniversary last May, just in the middle of the global pandemic. But Singapore rather has been in the process of understanding the social enterprise landscape far longer than that. I'd say maybe a little over 10 years, when the whole social enterprise movement became a lot more popular with the advent of internet and people being able to understand social businesses. I think people call it different things in different countries. I think some call it inclusive businesses. Here in Singapore, we call it social enterprises. But yeah, essentially, we have been advocating for them in Singapore for quite some time now.
So how big is the sector here in Singapore?
So maybe I'll give you a little bit of understanding of the landscape. We do a landscape study once in a couple of years to understand how social enterprises are faring in Singapore and what really Raise can do to be able to support them. The sector is currently at about 176 million in terms of revenue. And we manage something between 360 to 400 social enterprises at any one point in time. You're right to say most of them are small businesses, but they are very impactful in terms of contributing to the society in Singapore. Most of the social enterprises have human-centered outcomes, which is very different from maybe a lot of the developing countries around us. I'd say 57% of them create employment to beneficiaries. And by beneficiaries, we mean anybody from physical needs, mental disabilities, as well as from the low-income groups in Singapore. It's hard to believe, but we do have people that we need to support. And I would think some other notable insights that I think will interest people in this room would be that a lot of them are women-led businesses. And a lot of them are also youth-led. When I say a lot, I mean more than 60%. So I think that would give you an understanding of who the founders are. And generally, they operate for a longer period of time. Most startups are around for almost more than 5 years. So that shows that they're quite resilient as well, because most of them are centered by social outcomes, things that they want to do to change, and they don't really give up very easily. They're also very lean to begin with. So they have been able to stand through whatever the pandemic has thrown at them as well.
So one of the things we've been really proud of as PayPal is providing support for small businesses to connect with consumers all around the world. And we've seen huge advances in digitization and businesses going online, everything from hawker centers here in Singapore to traders that want to reach new customers across the globe. How have you seen the pandemic impact social entrepreneurship in Singapore? And sort of more broadly, what are the challenges that may be different from a year ago, pre-pandemic, that today's social entrepreneurs are actually facing in the market?
Actually, social enterprises are essentially just SMEs, right? So they face the same businesses. Everyone was forced to go online. They had to pivot to a lot of these platforms. I think the only difference is really with a lot of social enterprises, they may be 1 or 2 man operations. They may be a lot smaller. So you'd see the founders juggling between sales and marketing, as well as also being able to provide the services on the ground. So when they had to actually pivot, we had to help them quite a bit in terms of being able to procure some of these services and extend it to them, or get them to quickly understand, what it means to do digital marketing, how to target their customers better. I think these platforms are always available. I mean, PayPal has supported a lot of our social enterprises as well. But for the early adopters, it was easy transition. I think for the ones that were forced into making that change, we felt that we needed to be like the big brother that brought them through. And I actually think even PayPal has probably done so for a lot of other small businesses. And just wanted to see whether you guys had any different experiences. For us, it's really been, being able to teach them about customer acquisition online, how to grow their base, how to engage with their base actively. Yeah, so just wanted to see if you guys had any different opinion or experiences on that.
We've definitely had to adapt a lot of our policies to help businesses connect across the world with consumers. Because if you think about just even some of the basics of logistics networks being challenged, lower delivery times that retailers face, we moved quickly to support our sellers with extending seller protection and buyer protection policies that needed to extend because shipment times were taking longer. So we wanted to be really fair between the buyer and the seller. And I think we've seen record, every quarter, every 3 months, we've seen an average about 1.5 million new businesses globally come online with PayPal. So making sure that those businesses don't hit any roadblocks in terms of signing up, any limitations in their accounts. We have to make sure that the cash flows quickly if they're selling products, that they continue with their cash flow, because as you said, those businesses are juggling a lot of things. And one thing we want to take away is the heart of cash flow. So we've had to be flexible, and I think we've done a good job to support that digitization push by small businesses around the world. But we've got a lot more to continue as record numbers of small businesses come online. But Singapore's a fantastic export-orientated mindset in terms of the small business community. They want to find new customers around the world. So we're here to help them connect with those consumers.
Yeah, so I think you hit a spot with the word cash flow, right? So a lot of our social enterprises are small, and they needed the support. So for us, we came in with, of course, things like grants, and as well as working with the local banks to be able to extend credit lines to them. But they are businesses, they will need to pay back those loans and trade products and services as any other SME would be. But I like to think 1 year has come by, and they are resilient. They are still we just took a count last week. We still have the same or more number of social enterprises. The sector size still remains. So they have been able to tide through and remain resilient, which is an encouraging thing for us, really.
That's great. I think everyone needs to work together to help the small business thrive. Firstly, it was really about surviving, but now it's about thriving and taking advantage of digital opportunities. And as you say, I think Singapore businesses are extremely resilient, which is a fantastic trait to have in these times. So thinking about the ecosystem here in Singapore, can you talk a little bit about how you see that helping social entrepreneurs in the local market?
So for us at Raise, actually, we started out quite like a sector developer. So we wanted to go ground up. We focused a lot on building the credibility of social enterprises. But on our 5th year, as we look forward, we think playing an ecosystem developer role would be more useful for the future. I say that because I think in order for an ecosystem to flourish, it needs to be organic. And we are the catalyst here. We want to be able to bring different players together, corporates, social service organizations, SMEs that see value in becoming social enterprises, and sort of connect the dots and be the conduit that brings all of this support together. I think that's also how it kickstarted, the collaboration between Raise and PayPal, and how we've actually come together to support small businesses in Singapore. And we see that as an important part. Raise cannot and will not have all the support and resources to be able to support our social enterprises. And we see corporates like yourself as an important part of the ecosystem that can help us in achieving our goals. So I think that's why we say to corporates, come forward, be part of the good, help social enterprises do better in Singapore. By doing good, they do better. Yeah, I think it's also interesting to find out from you, Cam, how PayPal has done so not only in Singapore, but around the region, how you see your corporate involvement in making social enterprises a part of your sustainability journey.
That's a great question. Firstly, we're really proud to be part of the good movement. I think it's important for companies like PayPal to do our part and help businesses thrive, as I mentioned earlier. But I suppose there's lots of different strands to how I think PayPal helps small businesses get established and thrive. Obviously, we provide a global trusted payment platform, which is obviously very useful as companies are trying to build trust with a consumer base and sort of stand in the middle and do the right thing in terms of that trusted transaction so that small businesses can play on a level playing field. And there's trust behind the goods and services they're providing, and we will support the trusted payments. The other thing is new services, which have been extremely successful around the world for PayPal, like working capital solutions. So we look at basically making advances, working capital advances, which is exactly what we talked about before, the importance for cash flow. And businesses can use that to invest, both digital, offline, but PayPal really stands behind, a partnership with small business. And it's a product that we're extending across the globe. We've got it in many markets, and in time we'll bring it to Singapore. We want to help businesses thrive. So that's some of the areas that we think about when we think about helping small businesses get up and running. In closing, we could talk for a lot longer, but I really want to thank you for your partnership. And we're passionate about small business. I know that the role that you're playing is incredibly important in fostering a strong ecosystem for small business and social entrepreneurs here in Singapore. So you've got our commitment to be part of the good movement ongoing, and hopefully we can see a lot more success in the future. But thank you so much for joining me today.
Thanks, Cameron, and also everyone at the PayPal team. I think for us to have PayPal's commitment to help these small businesses be on the platform, to be honest, the privilege is really ours. Anybody that can come forward to help these social enterprises, it will certainly go a long way in terms of their social impact. So thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you so much.